Hello, this is Katie Oberhuder. Today we are going to discuss ADHD, which is Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. What is ADHD? As I had mentioned before, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder is the overall word for the acronym of ADHD. ADHD refers to individuals who display patterns of inattentive, impulsive, and overactive behavior that interfere with daily functioning. This means that it is hard for them to actually focus. They get overly distracted. Now, when we think of this, sometimes we think of it as just being hyper. And so this is where a lot of problems occur because we just assume that ADHD is just hyperactivity. It's just somebody just getting hyper. When in reality, it's actually more than just that. It actually has a lot more to do with the person and their brain, and that's just how they function. And because of that, they cannot function too well in a school setting. They get easily distracted. They can't sit still for a period of long time unless they have some kind of movement. Hyper kids are just not the same. I mean, yeah, they need movement, but those with ADHD, they cannot control these movements. This is just something they have to do, or it causes them even more problems. So the factors that may be involved in the development of ADHD include genetics. ADHD can run in families, and they depict that this has a huge influence. That genes play a huge role on whether a person has ADHD or not. They believe also another cause might be environment. Environmental factors such as lead exposure, and I've read some other things like cigarette smoke. Those can also lead to some problems that might cause ADHD. And development problems with the central nervous system at key moment in development may play a role. And that is where the brain aspect comes in. Okay. So overall, ADHD is not just hyperactivity. It has more to do with how a person needs to function. And though we may not understand it too well as individuals who don't have it, those who do have ADHD, they need some kind of movement just to function properly in class. Also, they need to find ways that they won't get easily distracted while they're in school. Common symptoms among boys and girls. There are basic symptoms that occurs between just ADHD. However, there are, just like with autism and many other things that has to do with the brain itself, the way that if that boys things and girl think are completely different, just is how it is nature for us. So with boys, they're more known to they are more prone to act out in class. They use more hyperactivity such as running and hitting. They lack of focus, including inattentiveness, and they use physical aggressiveness. The girl symptoms, which are actually less obvious and more internal, and this is the problem when it comes to diagnosing girls with ADHD, is because they're more withdrawn. They have low self-esteem and anxiety. They have impairment in attention that may lead to difficulty with academic achievements. They daydream a lot, and they are more prone to using verbal aggression such as teasing, taunting, name calling. So in other words, like bullying. And it's amazing how when you see the symptoms between the boys and girls, you it's pretty common that you see boys do acting out, and that's just in their nature. But when it comes to the ADHD aspect of them acting out, I see them more of like they're not meaning to. It's just that's just how they are, whether they're not purposely doing it, as if you've seen class clowns who don't have ADHD, who doesn't just try to be funny. Those with ADHD are not trying to be funny. This is just who they are. Um, how many students with ADHD are currently being served in the United States? Well, approximately there are 11% of children from 4 to 17 years of age. That is 6.4 million children that are being diagnosed with ADHD. And percent and how has the number of students identified increased within in recent um, I'm assuming in recent studies. The percent of children with an ADHD diagnosis continues to increase from 7.8% from 2003, 9.5% in 2007, and then 11% in 2011 to 12. When I was trying to find more up-to-date percentage and statistics, it was hard to find anything. Somehow, the latest thing I was able to find was from 2011 to 2012, which is why I used the percentage from that time. Now, and I believe that this is just approximately of children from this group, but typically when you think about it, these are just the ages when the kids are actually in school. So when they are asking how many students with ADHD are currently being served, that is what I believe that is about accurate as the percentage of what the data shows for children with ADHD, because parents may not be able to see their child having problems with ADHD, but the teachers do. So the teachers have that important role of letting the parents know that this child needs to be assessed and looked at and get proper help from that way. What are some of the reported reasons for that increase? Well, children aren't just being diagnosed in greater numbers than a few years ago, they're also being diagnosed at earlier age. So, half of the children are receiving diagnosis at age 6 or below. 17.1 is from age 6, 14.6% is from age 5, and 16% at age 4. They are realizing that now it is easier to detect ADHD symptoms in younger age children than before. So now that they are seeing the relevance that a lot of what's in common with those with ADHD, they're trying to get them as much help as they can when they begin their schooling. So if they need to be put on medication, or if they have other ways of needing help, they are used to that in the system, and it won't be a problem for them in the future. Out of 5 children have been diagnosed through a provider who relied information collected by family members as well as other sources through teachers, coaches, and adults that are involved in the child care. Also, who plays an important factor, as I mentioned, are schools. And it's not necessarily always true, but schools might be the cause because of financial benefits. As I was reading about this part, when the students with ADHD are taking standardized testings, because that is how schools are funded, or through standardized tests, ADHD children usually do not just sit still and take the test. They usually act out and they leave. And also their scores are much lower than those of a typical student. So this plays a factor of the schools receiving financial benefits through this way. What are specific behavior characteristics of students with ADHD? Well, many students with ADHD have behavioral, social, and emotional challenges, which are difficult to regulating positive and negative emotions. In what way do those characteristics make it difficult for students who are in participating schools? Well, studies have found that students with ADHD compare students without or have persistent academic difficulties that result in lower average marks, grades. They are failing more. They have more school expulsions where they're either being suspended or they are, like they mentioned, exposed, so they're kicked out for good. They have increased dropout rates and lower rate of college undergraduate completion. Do all students with ADHD demonstrate the same characteristics of degree or behavior? As I was actually, because I'm not too familiar with ADHD, but I'm not, even though I don't know too much about it. I mean, yes, I knew that there was a problem with the brain. However, I didn't know that there was three different types. The first type is predominantly inattentive type, where the students submit inaccurate or incomplete work. They have difficulty attending conversations, activities, or tasks. They are easily distracted. They have a difficult time following directions. They lose materials, and they lack organizing skills. The second one is predominantly hyperactive and impulsive type, where the student is always in constant motion. They are fidgeting or moving a lot. They become restless during quiet activities. But they leave their seat when they are expected to be seated. They interrupt others in classroom activities. They talk excessively, and or they fail to follow classroom procedures. They like to put out answers without raising hand. And there is a third type, which is combined type. The student may exhibit symptoms that include behaviors from both categories above. According to the IDA 2004, under which category are students with ADHD identified? They're a subcategory of other health impairments, which means that they don't get the necessary IEP unless they have other health problems like autism or etc. So this just shows how they can get that extra IEP help. However, if they don't qualify for IEP, they also may get the 504 plan, which the parents and the teachers still create a plan which benefits the student in helping them in this environment. How to assist students with ADHD? Well, there's several things. Um, like how to arrange the classroom, how you can arrange like organization things. There's several things that you can read on here. Discuss effective class-wide interventions for all students, especially those who display characteristics of ADHD. Well, work on the most difficult concept early in the day because they don't lose concentration as fast. Give directions to one assignment at a time instead of directions to multiple tasks all at once. Vary the pace and type of activity. Maximize the student's attention. And structure the student's environment to accommodate his or her special needs. And here are my references. Thank you for listening and have a great day.